Hello and happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Torc.dev community stream. Today I am man, this is such an honor to have such three amazing community builders in the space today, and you all happen to be on the same team building the same great community. We have Cap and Pauline and Amy of Vercel. If you want to just go around, you can introduce yourselves to everybody here that's starting to file in. Good to see everyone. We are on all platforms and we are on the Torque YouTube if you want to check us out there. But go ahead, Pauline, introduce yourself and titles so everybody knows what you're doing there on the community team.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see so many of you join. I'm Pauline. I'm the senior manager for the community team here at Vercel. I joined Vercel just 8 months ago.
Wow, nice. And look at all the fun you're having working all these hours making
So
such
much
a great
fun.
community. We were talking about how diligent she is to her craft prior to the stream here, so it's pretty awesome. It's great to have you, Amy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I also obviously at Vercel, but I'm a community manager. I was the first one working all by myself, and Pauline joined me a few months ago, so it's been a couple years for me.
The OG,
Yeah,
Amy.
I love
but
that.
going back,
Oh, go ahead.
it
Go ahead.
started as so much just a support focused community, and it's grown so much. So it's great to see that vision coming to life.
I love that, and I kind of want to talk about how the growth has expanded even the team because a lot of teams start as one, but scaling
Mhm.
such a large community does require a team, and I would love to hear some of the nuance and the changes as you've seen it evolve. But let's go
Yeah.
over to Cap, and she can introduce herself as well.
Yeah, so I am Cap. You might see me as Kapehe around, either name. I am head of developer community at Vercel, and I've been there 2 months. Feels like longer than 2 months, though. But fun fact, we're all at Vercel, but we're on different community teams. I don't know if you knew that, Jason.
You know what? I didn't know that, and that is
Yeah.
fascinating. And I actually need to immediately hear what the hell that means.
So this is how we think about it. So I am my community side is outreach, the greater developer community, and then Pauline and Amy is the internal Vercel customer community. That's how we think about it.
And
Okay. Go
yeah, and
ahead,
I would
Pauline.
just like to add, when I describe it as well to folks, we always go back to the marketing funnel. So it's top of funnel, middle funnel, and bottom of funnel. And even though there is a lot of overlap in the kind of community work that we do, essentially we have our main focus points. So CAP is very top of funnel, kind of all over the show, connecting with developers, and Amy and I focus mostly on getting the people who's already knows Vercel and wants to learn more about how they can be as successful as they can be in the Vercel ecosystem. We are the people that kind of take care of those, and mostly in our Vercel.community platform.
Okay. Well, now it's starting to make a little bit of sense. And I feel like when you grow such a large community, you have to have these divisions and stuff. So it makes sense to kind of consolidate into certain forms. I love Jeff's, it's community inception. They just keep communitizing all the levels of inception. Well, I mean, I guess let's kind of start maybe a little bit with everybody's backgrounds in community building. Like, is this your first community role? And again, you just jump in at any time. We don't do hands here. So I would love to kind of hear everyone's backgrounds a little bit as Cap raised hers first. So, Cap,
I was just
gonna say
playing.
Cap,
I was playing. Yeah.
you should go first because I swear I have been on Jason's show, Taylor's show 3 times, and everyone knows what I've done now. I feel like
That's true.
I should go last.
Pauline, I want to know what you do. I want to know.
You know.
I know. Yeah, so I've been in dev community type stuff for 6 years now. 7, 5. I'll say 5 to 7. Because developer community goes by different names. Like there's DevRel, there's Evangelist, there's technical writer, there's content engineer, there's like all these different like ways to be engaged with the developer community. So yeah, this is like 7th year for me.
7th year, nice. Amy, how about yourself?
This is actually my first community role. I obviously been involved in communities as a participant before, but I started as an engineer and found myself getting more and more interested in customer needs, community needs, and I found myself drifting toward it and finally got that to be like my official role here. But I already touched on it started as a support community, so that was really in line with the experience that I had, and it was kind of an easy transition.
It makes sense to have that background, especially when you then transition into communities for engineers. You know what you're looking for. You know what's
Mhm.
worked for you. I think that that's obviously a great starting point for a lot of people to move into community management. Um, what what kind of differentiates a community, a true community, from just like a group of users or customers?
We're all waiting for
I know
Yeah, we're all
everybody's
like
like
nobody
so
wants to
polite.
talk.
Y'all are so polite.
There we
I
go.
love it.
I mean, I think from my perspective, if I'm a customer, I'm coming at a company or product from the perspective of like what I get. I'm paying for it or I'm not paying for it, but I'm focused on what I'm getting out of it. And I might not even like the product. I'm using it for one reason or another, right? Uh, As it becomes a community, it's more it's a product that you like, you care about it, but it's also a sense of being part of something, a place where you belong, and just uh, a focus on what you can start to contribute to make it better. So it's kind of a shift in mindset, I think.
Nice. I like that. And Pauline, Cap.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna just plus one everything that Amy just said, and I think like this is gonna happen throughout this stream. By the way, it's just gonna be like, yeah, I agree with what Amy and Cap said
What
exactly. Just gonna
ditto
amplify it.
copy?
Yeah,
Love
exactly.
it.
No, but from my perspective, I just wanted to add as well. Like, I think it is yes that sense of belonging, but also like coming together over like a shared idea. So I think one of the themes that we have at Vercel that gets everyone super excited is recently we've been saying you can just ship things. And that saying, like across even the organization and within the developer community and even with our customers, people get that that's the Vercel thing. And we all kind of come together because we all believe that we can ship things using Vercel products, but also it becomes like a greater thing where actually, yeah, I can just ship things with Vercel products and services, great, but also other tools, and it becomes this kind of mindset, and I think that is ultimately one of the glues of the community.
I like that. Cap, are you gonna ditto that? Are you gonna plus to it?
I'll plus to it. They said it all and they said it wonderfully. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I like that. Pauline, I think you mentioned coming together around specific things, specifically maybe a product or a platform. I am a member of a running community, and the lead of that had said, and this always stuck with me, and I actually used it in a talk about community. Communities are people that share experiences, or it's like common experiences or shared struggles. Like having those like connective tissues is really what can bring a community together. And I think those are super important. So um, how how do you and I think that this kind of comes around where the blurred line between like customer and community member can kind of come into play is how do you establish trust early on when building a new tech community? Because again, I think from a business perspective, there still has to be that business element to it. So how do you sort of operate there?
In my experience, if you don't love the product that you are trying to like get others to use, the community will see right through it and they'll be like whatever. So you have to like truly love what you're using and like what you want to teach people how to use. I was DevRel-ish or whatever, different names for 4.5 years at Sanity. And I loved Sanity the entire time I was there. And I still love it. Like, it's a great product. And I wouldn't have gone to a product that I'm like, oh, I don't really know much about it. Like, I use Vercel. Like, I'm using it and I find success in it. If I didn't, then it would be hard to like have the authenticity, and the community would just kind of like see right through that. And they're like, we don't really care.
Yeah, people see through that real fast these days. I think that that's one of the biggest kind of fundamentals to building community and believing in the product. Like, supporting the product is super important. Amy, Pauline, anything else to add to that on your perspectives?
Plus 1,000 to that because genuinely, like, so in my previous role, I was head of community at GitPod, and the reason I think I did so well in that role was genuinely because I loved the product and what it stood for. Like, at the time, like, the product kind of changed over time, but like when I joined, one of the main core values was to make coding accessible to everybody. And for me, who I've talked about this extensively, maybe with Taylor in a different talk stream, where I was like teaching women how to code, and I really I felt very aligned to that mission. And so knowing that GitPod had a product that lowered the barrier to entry to get into tech for everyone, no matter where they were in the world, really spoke to me. And every time I talked about it, like on like stream or when I was giving talks about it and bringing people together around this concept, I feel like people really got excited about it. And I think, yeah, 100%, if you don't really love the product that you're like advocating for or building a community around, I think people can see right through it. And then I think another thing in terms of like establishing trust has to be, for me, everyone who's involved in the community, like internally, they have to kind of show up and be responsive and kind of lead by example. And I think like one of the things that the Next.js community, as part of Vercel, has done really well. Just a bit of context, I used to be part of the Next.js community for a couple of years. And kind of what I loved to see was the engineers jumping into issues. I loved how they answered like questions that I had about how to use Next.js or how to do this thing. And we had folks like Lee Robb, who was in the community saying like, hey, share your projects with us and you can get some swag. And actually, fun fact, a couple of years ago, I got swag from Lee, and now I work at because he was like, hey, can anyone share a Next.js project that, we can showcase in the community? And I think that is what, for me, built my trust with Vercel, because I was like, actually, they want to build alongside us and keep that like open and transparent communication like out in public. And for me, that helped me personally as a member feel like I trusted the company, if that makes sense. Oh, Jason, I think your microphone.
Jason.
Maybe I went the wrong way. I actually turned.
Oh yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, trust, especially when you're dealing with a company, and then the people facing side of it is super important. The authenticity is super important. How do you balance like the goals of a company with authentic community needs? Like, how do you? Again, I feel like we touched on that in the previous question too, but I think at the end of the day, sometimes people have a hard time getting into communities because there is that apprehension, like, there is a business here. So I think you guys all do it really well, and I've never felt pressured in any way. So how do you maintain that? Again, very difficult to do, especially when it comes to the business side.
I think Vercel has such a history of being invested in the community. The developer experience is kind of the whole point. So it feels like cheating a little bit, right? That the goals are kind of aligned. It's not as hard as it would be in some other places.
I have found that generally people will enter a community when they need help. Like they're using the product and they're like, I don't know where else to go. Please answer this question for me. Please solve it for me. And then it's all about like exposing that there is a community at the company. So I'll just say there's a community at Vercel and we want to support you, you know? And so it's like, where is the best place to go to get questions answered about my project that I'm using Vercel or Next? You know, where's the lowest barrier to that team? And that's going to be in the community. And so when people come, it's like, we don't want to just answer a question and be like, okay, go on your merry way. We want to provide more resources for them. Like, oh, well, we actually have this entire like list of events that maybe you can join and share a project that you're building. This is something really cool. Or we have this program that gives you credits and we would love for you to join that program. So usually a lot of people come for that problem and we hope they stay because we offer lots of value in lots of other things. And that's where my side of community comes in. It's like, hey, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to come to you with events. I'm going to come to you with programs because I want you to know that when you're using Vercel or Next, I want to make sure you go to the right people. And that's Pauline and Amy. And that's like the perfect path. And like we hope the happiest path for people when they, join the Vercel community.
Wait, Vercel has a community? That's
Yeah.
revelation.
It's
Is it
Vercel
the information
yeah.
available right there? Amazing. Amazing.
That was amazing. We
Amazing.
didn't even like rehearse that, by the way, everyone. That was
I
great.
know. Look at that.
That
Allie,
end scene, that was amazing. Amazing.
that's a wrap.
Incredible.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
No, but I think that you made some really good points there. Again, a lot of people do join communities because there's an immediate need. Like they go to these resources, these communities to get a question answered. But I think the follow up on our end is the most important piece is obviously providing that resource and then giving them reasons to stay. Do you what are the ways or the processes your community team uses to kind of come up with ideas? Like, how do you decide that you wanted to build these forums over at Discourse or that you want to do specific events? Like, what's the process for that? Are you listening to feedback or are you just kind of A/B testing things in the back end?
And from the forum perspective, I think Amy, you could take that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of feedback when we first started. At least for my role, I was focused on supporting hobby customers and some pro customers. And it was on GitHub discussions, which was great for what we were doing, but there's some limitations because it's not that all-in-one kind of community site type of place. So we moved onto our own discourse site, and it gave us room to give the things that we were getting feedback that people wanted, a lot more resources. Writing up guides, doing some videos, just all the things that we can do now, and providing those resources that are valuable for people to keep coming back to.
And from my side, from the events and meetup side, and programs, we have learned from the community that people love to gather. People love meetups. People love conferences. People love hackathons. They love to like do this kind of stuff together because when like-minded people and like they have the same interests gather, it's like really exciting because it's like, oh, I found my friends. I found my people. And so I did an Amsterdam meetup oh my gosh, it was like 2 weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Time moves fast. 2 weeks ago. And the Amsterdam community is just thriving. And I would have never thought like, oh, if I do an Amsterdam meetup, people are going to show up. Like I'm crossing my fingers. And their room was packed and people loved it. And they're like, thanks so much for like hosting this and running it. And then I go on Twitter and I say, where should we do the next one? People are like, come to Toronto, come here. People want to have these events. And so it's feedback in a sense, but it's more just like that desire. And then when it does happen, people get really excited because they're like, oh, I can hopefully have it at the next one, or I'm hoping I'm in the city that they do it at next. So we're trying to like cover the world and like come to you. But yeah, people just like this. And then on top of that, I'm getting a lot of like, hey, we're running our own hackathon, we're running our own meetup. Can Vercel be a part of that? And so we like dive in and we're like, yeah, we'd love to give credits to the winners, or we'd love to like send someone to be a judge, or however we can like be involved there. Because I mean, that's how we find each other. That's how we find, oh, you'd be great to hire, or this project's really cool, we should like promote this, or whatever it is. So that's how we find each other and each other's projects, is gathering. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in person, but I am finding that in person is way more effective than virtual.
You know, it would be really cool, an in-person event in New York City.
Hey,
That's coming up
it's such a good
in 3
one.
weeks.
Wait,
Oh,
we were
like March
discussing it
12th?
before.
Great.
It's so
That would be
good.
perfect.
I had to
That
give him
would
all
be
the prompts.
perfect. Ugh,
It's incredible.
I
Yeah, I
just
just
hate.
wanted. Go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to add to Cap's point. I think one of the reasons people also like to gather in person is genuinely because of the pandemic, and I think like since that time, people will jump at any opportunity to meet other developers and like wider tech community whenever they can. In my previous role, when this was actually one of the initiatives we also launched, and the amount of people that jumped on it was wild. Like I didn't expect it. It was also just like a side kind of initiative. I was like, if it happens, if people like join, that would be nice. But we got like places full, like fully booked out, because people really just wanted to meet in person. And I think it's super exciting that like Cap is leading this at Vercel, and then we have this kind of bridge where we're like, okay, you all meet in person, but hey, did you know, if you have any more questions about the Vercel ecosystem, about the community, come into the Vercel community and like ask us there. And you can, I love how you keep putting that on the screen, Jason. Perfect. But yeah,
Another
you can come
one.
here and bridge, yeah, another one, exactly. And then we kind of bridge the two spaces together, which is really, really nice, which is what community is about.
Oh, yes, there it is. I love that. When I kind of want to move on to like the actual building and like what the connections look like and how you do that. But for each of you, do you have like a specific turning point when you realized like the work you were putting in was like genuinely working? Like I feel like everybody has that one moment where they can kind of step outside of what they've done or what they're in and be like, "Holy crap, like I'm doing this. Like this is happening." Does anybody have one of those kind of moments?
Like at Vercel?
Yes.
Yeah,
Since we're
okay.
talking about them and their community specifically.
I also prompted him, by the way, to say that. No, I didn't. So I think, like from my side, I think it's actually recently I felt like we were getting momentum in the community, in the Vercel community, when I started seeing more messages from customers, like to me, to Amy, and just generally the community team, to say, hey, we watched your like customer session and we loved it. How can we get involved? Can we schedule one as soon as like next week? When are you next available? Who's next on the backlog? And literally, like, we've been doing these live sessions every single week this month in February, and we are booked out up until like mid-March. And actually, I got off like 2 meetings today, and people are like, let's keep them going. So I think we're just gonna keep them going. Which is great. I think it's like, for me, that was a point where I felt like, oh, actually, the efforts that we've been putting in over the last couple of months are paying off, and people like internally and also customers really, really care about this space and want to create this long-term investment in the Vercel community, which is great.
I love that. I like getting community feedback too, like the comments when people are posting, especially after the events you're doing, and they're saying, "Oh, I took something away from it." Like that's just so rewarding. What about either of you, Cap, Amy? Any of those aha community moments?
I mean, plus one on everything Pauline said. That was something that we were really working toward, and it's great to see it.
I have no aha moment because I came in and there was like this like craving from the community to like have these events and like have all this stuff happen. And y'all are showing up. I mean, there hasn't been like I had a meetup in SF and the community showed up. Like this is a really good community. These are good people. And I feel like I'm honored to be able to like do this for this community. But when I have that aha moment where it's like, oh, this is it, like, I'll let you know. Because right now I'm like all good vibes. I'm like cruising on good vibes right now.
Cruising on the good vibes. Well, it
Yeah.
seems like these in-person events for you have been there though. Like this is something that the community's been clamoring for, and you guys are delivering, and they're showing up. So that's fantastic. I love
Hmm.
that. Um, as far as like building or creating the connections, what strategies have maybe you found, and again this goes back to sort of bringing people into the community, what have you found effective for moving beyond like those initial first transactional interactions where you've solved the person's problem, now what?
So from go on. Yeah. Okay, I'll go. So yeah, from like I remember like my first couple of weeks at Vercel, I really wanted to know who was already in our community, who were the top contributors, whose name was showing up every single like week on week. And especially it was really interesting because I was part of the GitHub discussions community and supported Amy with launching the official like Vercel community discourse. And so it was really fun to see that the people who were active on GitHub discussions port over almost like immediately once we announced the Vercel community had launched. And those were the people I kept an eye on. And over the next couple of weeks, I reached out to them. They were answering questions all over the community space already. I just reached out to them and I was like, hey, I'm new. You probably have seen me around, but I really want to chat and get to know you a little bit more. And for the first couple of weeks, I ended up booking like virtual coffee chats with them where I literally had no agenda. And I just wanted to know, like, where are you calling in from the world? Like, what was the projects that you built on Vercel? Tell me about like what you're building now, and like how can we help you in this virtual space to give you more like visibility. And one example of this interaction actually was Jono. He is the founder of Roboto Studio, and I saw him in the community, super active. We had a coffee chat, and then I learned so much about like how Roboto started, and we ended up like basically partnering on our very first like customer session within the community, and he nailed it. And that was all just because we had a casual coffee chat where we were like, we should highlight you because this is what this space is about. Like, let's connect and build on that relationship. And then after that, we also did a Next.js conf in a watch party in London. He came to that. And so he just keeps showing up, which is great. And it all started like kind of my strategy has just been, hey, do you want to have a coffee? that's my strategy for everything, I guess, in life.
It's a great strategy to start, and again you're building that authentic relationship past that point of the initials. So what about either of you, Amy, Cap, huh? Plus one copy.
I mean, yeah, plus one. It's we've kind of touched on it earlier too. Leading by example. There's these private conversations happening, and there's also being out in public and showing people the kinds of things that they can say to each other. Congratulating people on the things that they're building, and just being nice to each other in general, and it helps people feel, like they can say it too, instead of like it's weird and this should be a transaction where you say, please help me with this thing, and then they get their answer and then they leave.
Sorry, moving my windows around. Go ahead, Cap.
Hard agree on all this, like super great. I agree. Like I always tell people, oh, email me, DM me, so that like that relationship is past like the surface, like, oh, nice to meet you, like let's get to know each other. And a lot of like really good friendships happen in my Twitter DMs. Like I just become really close with people over there. And we're like in emails, that's where like collaboration is happening. And it's like, okay, let's like tighten this up and let's get this sponsored or whatever, so a lot of it does happen in like private chats. But to Amy's point, I love that like sometimes keeping it in the open is what keeps the community going. And so there's like that balance there of like, how can we like deepen this connection? That's probably going to happen in like a private chat or like a phone call, or like, hey, here's my Calendly link. Go find a time and let's just chat about this. Which, by the way, did everyone know that Google Calendar does like a Calendly link now?
Yeah, I actually that's what I
Yeah.
use. Yeah,
That's what I use now, and it's so
Yeah.
it's so great. But yeah, so I'll just like send people that link, and I'm like, find a time, and people just find 30-minute slots on my calendar, and it's been great, and I'm making these like good friends, and this will probably be a partnership and like community partnership that I have forever. And then we see each other at conferences, and we're like, oh my gosh, and it's just great. So, but then keeping it public is also key, because then you have that flow of conversation always happening.
Well, and you made a great point as far as like the public and private, and so much can happen on both sides. But I think this maybe touches a little bit more on the public side, is how do you kind of facilitate connections between the community members that don't know each other? As you're building the relationships between yourself and other community members, but how are you like kind of deepening those connections?
So we'll go back this way. So what I have been doing is at meetups, that's the best place to harvest those connections that you can't be like, hey, you and you talk, like online, it's kind of like, it might be a little weird. But in person, I always open up the floor in meetups for Q&A, or I stop the Q&A so that you have to go up and talk to the speaker and like go like engage with them. So in Amsterdam, this actually happened where we had 3 community speakers, and then we had like a networking period, and then the Vercel Q&A panel. But I made sure I had that networking period, because when those three speakers ended and we didn't have Q&A for them because we just didn't have time, that was like the Q&A section. And the comments and like the messages that I've gotten from the people from that meetup are like, I never thought I would meet such and such, or I never thought I'd ever engage with this person. And because of that meetup, I now have an open DM with them. And this is like blowing my mind. And it's just like creating those spaces where those natural connections happen. Like you can't just be like, oh, so it's just like naturally letting that happening, but creating the space for it. And that's why like networking time, that's why hallway track is so important. That's why like those times where we're not sitting and listening to someone do a talk, but rather engaging with each other, finding those, and like, yeah.
Nice. I guess then it goes to Amy if we're going back around the horn.
Sure. Yeah, I think in person obviously is the best way to get those group conversations going. In the online space, we often link people where maybe somebody has had a previous question or a previous project that's kind of related, and try to just link things across so that people can see who else is doing something similar, or who else is interested in something similar. And you have to leave it up to them a little bit. If they want to reach out, then they can, and just trying to make it as easy as possible.
Now I guess that would be Pauline.
I was gonna say, I actually have been that person that there's probably you can probably see this in the Vercel community right now, but I have actually been that person who has jumped in and been like, at someone else, have you spoken to this person? Or did you know that this person also built something very similar? Or like maybe you two should talk. I have been that person that's actually like, this username should meet this username. Especially, actually, a good example of this is our hiring discussion. So we have a job board in the community that we post every single month. And whenever I go through some of the jobs that like our partners and customers post on there, I like sometimes unapologetically tag specific community members that I've seen around the community looking for a role and been like, hey, this is up your alley. You should meet this person and directly at them in the post. Maybe nothing comes from it, but like maybe something does, and I think that's cool too.
Well, I think you doing your part is making the connection. I mean, you can only lead horses to water, right? So I think that you did your part as a community builder. Cap, I see you raising your hand down there.
Thanks. Oh, am I good to go? Or were you done?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't want to.
You're good.
But I just want to point out Jeff's comment.
I was going to bring that up. Yes, go for it.
I think that's so. I am like really awkward. Like starting conversations, I'll be like, "Hi," like I don't really know what to talk about, and I've had to work on it, especially in like the things that I'm doing. I have to know how to like spark a conversation. So I always have a question that I ask to kind of like break the ice. And one that I've been doing lately, and Jeff, maybe you can like use my question. It's so lame. It's so like anybody can answer it. But I always ask, what's your favorite dessert? And that always just like gets the conversation going. But like find your question, be like, I always ask people this and like kind of like make it like your thing. Like I always ask people like, what's your favorite dessert? Like when we were doing intros, I almost was like, and Pauline, what's your favorite dessert? And you were gonna have to answer it. But like that kind of like creates this little like icebreaker, like find your question and you're just like, I always just ask people this because it kind of like helps me to get to know you. What's your favorite dessert? And they're like, oh, key lime pie. And you're like, no way, I love key lime. And then like goes from there.
Do you actually like key lime pie? What's your favorite dessert, Cap?
It is key lime pie.
Is it
right
really
now.
key lime
yeah.
pie? Nice.
But key lime pie that's not green. If it's green, it's artificially colored. So it has to be like it's like a yellow color. Oh, yeah. It's so good.
That is awesome. I love that. That was a fantastic question, actually. And he followed up here with, in person, I became a wall fixture that avoids things because I don't know how to spark conversation about things. I want to touch on that, too, because I think that's one of the best parts about being in a community is you have people that are a little bit more extroverted. You have people that are a little bit more introverted, and you kind of have to lean on each other. I've always been that connector. I'm the one that will go up to the person that doesn't look like they're having a good time and engage with them and bring them in. But you need people of all kinds. You need the Jeffs to then have these conversations and make those connections. So I love that. Key lime pie is delicious, but it is not my favorite. I'm sorry.
What's your favorite?
I like a really good cheesecake. Homemade cheesecake. Bomb.
Pauline, Amy?
Pauline's
Not
like,
cheesecake.
Nope.
No.
Well, what is it?
Why? Sorry, I'm just.
I just lost
Cheesecake.
so many points with Pauline right now.
It's like, I can't do not cheesecake. No, I actually really I just like a plain chocolate ice cream, and I'm very opinionated about this. It can't be like the ice cream with a bit of syrup. I just need plain chocolate ice cream, but like, and I can taste it, by the way. So if it's like not actually pure chocolate ice cream, I just immediately can't have it. It has to be pure chocolate ice cream that's like milky. So
I feel like Pauline is the person that would very politely spit it out in a napkin.
You've cracked me. Yep, that's
just
me.
very politely, but still
I would just not
refuse it.
Yeah, I would refuse it. Yeah.
Okay, Amy, what's your favorite dessert?
Right now, I think my favorite tres leches cake is very good.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's my favorite.
That is good too. That is very good. Wow, all great choices. I mean, I would eat all of them. I have a very bad sweet tooth. Wow. Okay. Well, we kind of talked about this as far as like the in person or virtual, but this could, I guess you could expand this past just meetups to like conferences and everything. And what types of events or activities give you the opportunity to create the strongest bonds between the developers and the community? Cap,
Oh,
you
I was gonna
first
say.
hand up.
Well, I was gonna say Pauline. I was pointing at Pauline. You should
Oh,
go
oh.
because we're doing the wraparound.
Oh, you should go, Cap. You're already unmuted. Go.
Can you say the question again?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, from your opinion or your experience, what types of events or activities give you the opportunity to create some of the strongest bonds between the members of the community? I think you already kind of alluded to it that these in-person meetups have been really great, but you have experience at conferences as well, or virtual conferences, so on and so forth.
So I guess when I say meetups, I just mean events. I think I lump all of them together, but a hackathon as well, conference, all of them, I guess just gathering. But I would say like the connections that I have made that are the deepest are from like the after parties at conferences where you're like not sitting and listening to talks or yeah, I'd say those are like the moments. I was gonna say or hallway track, but I would say like going out to dinner, chatting about whatever comes up. Sometimes it's tech, sometimes it's not. Or you're like, oh, your kids are 1 and 2, me too, and then it just springs from there. And then, but like it's the little after party at conferences that I have found are just friendship building, community building for me.
I plus one that for sure. I feel like that's where some of the best conversations and relationships are built. Pauline, go ahead. You unmuted. Oh, I saw that.
I was just about to say yes, 100%. Like it's the casual kind of setting that I feel really enhances those like the creates those meaningful like engagements with community, because I think having these like meetups, conferences are great because it's the place where you kind of bring everyone together. That's where everyone comes to. But then having these like dinners, the like one conference I used to go to, KubeCon, with the Kubernetes community. I went there every single year for the last like 3 years. And one of my favorite kind of activities that was hosted around the conference was actually a very early morning coffee with just a bunch of people that were interested in one topic. But the KubeCon is huge. There's thousands of people there, so it can get quite overwhelming. But I just loved the early morning, just a specific group of people that just really cared about one thing. And at the time, it was like developer experience for platform engineers, which is very niche, but it was so cool because then we just had like coffee, orange juice, and we just chatted about that topic mostly. But then some people were just talking about other things, and I'm connected with those folks, and it's great, even though we don't like have any overlap with work these days, because now in the Vercel kind of ecosystem, it just doesn't make sense. But we still stay connected, and their community is still like engaging with my stuff, and it's just great. So you really create those like lifelong friendships.
Maintaining friendships and relationships is so hard as grown-ups. It's so hard. It's crazy.
Oh, I could
I
talk
love that you're
about
doing
this.
it.
I could talk about this. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
will our next chat. We'll make that
Okay,
happen.
fair deal.
Yeah, Amy, did you have any feedback on that as well?
I mean, +1, it's the informal stuff, right? That's the best. And then in some of the online spaces, we can try to make that happen. The other one that I find seems to help people a lot is when we can all be focused on the same thing at the same time. So things like a live stream, everyone's focused on that all at the same time. So they're having more synchronous conversations. than we typically have online. And then that helps.
Unless you're the comments on my stream, which it is all over the place all the time. It's my audience. I love all of you, but man, you confuse the shit out of me sometimes. Let's moving on to like the fact that obviously Vercel, global organization, your community is probably very diverse, and I kind of wanted to talk about maybe again as community builders, you have to sort of take that into consideration. What steps have you taken to make your community more accessible to developers from diverse backgrounds?
I would say, are you saying like in a technical standpoint or like,
I'm just in general. Like I'm sure that you have some people in India that aren't going to resonate with the same content as the people in North America or Latin America, or the fact also even simply that you're in multiple different time zones. So how do you cater to all of these different community members?
I think Vercel has it down in if you're trying to like be in the Vercel community or trying to like engage with Next and Vercel and like you're working with that, we all have one common place, and that is we all want to build cool stuff. You know, we all want to ship our projects. And so I think V0 is like the best. Anybody can use it, whether you're an advanced engineer or like brand new. It's just building a really cool front end, you know, and like pulling data. Like it's crazy what V0 can do. But I think that has like made everyone be able to code. And this community is all about code, you know, and then you can go in and like, I mean, it's pulling straight from Vercel docs and like Vercel learnings. And so like if you have a problem or you want to like dig deeper into something, so that kind of like levels the playing field for a lot of our community members. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, totally.
Okay.
That was a great answer. Either there you go, Pauline, unmuted.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I guess from a like location standpoint, as we've been building out the more like bottom and middle funnel community, the customer community at Vercel, and as we've been building this out as a team on in terms of who's joining, we actually have a senior community engineer role open right now if anyone wants to check that out. We're growing the Vercel community team, and in terms of that, like we've been looking at specific places to hire, and one of the things that's super important is to have this coverage so that we have kind of reps, I guess, for the community across these different time zones. So I'm based out in the UK, Amy's in the US. We're hiring for someone in the West Coast, and we also have Anshuman, who is based out in India. And in terms of like to your question around like content and like specific audiences, like for example, Anshuman is actually we're creating this right now in the like behind the scenes, but we're creating another Vercel like customer community session with one of the top community members in the Vercel community who's based out in India, and that is the kind of content that they are sort of building is around V0, but they're building in a different way with a different audience, and they can all tune in at an appropriate time. So that's kind of how we've decided to build out the team, to make sure we have these kind of like community champions, community reps from the team across the world. So we can all cater to those specific audiences in those different locations. Yeah. Sorry, just was reading the chat. Everyone's very excited about the West Coast. West Coast, Best Coast. I actually think I agree with that, even though I've only been to the US like 4 times.
That is an ongoing debate. I've seen both sides. Yeah, they're both nice for their own reasons, I would say. You mentioned like community groups, not groups. I can't remember the specific phrasing you said, but speaking about like mentorship structures, like within the community, what sort of like structuring as far as that and making it more like open to newer developers, like have worked best for Vercel's technical community? Because I'm sure there are a ton of people that are just dipping their toes into the Next.js ecosystem. How, what sort of things do you have in place for someone like that?
I'll start. I think it goes back to having those resources, that the things that people can find, whether it's guides, excellent docs, tools like V0 that can help people get started and learn. Um, and then, again, leading by example, trying to show that empathy, the kindness, the compassion that other people can then see, and people who know more can help the new people joining who need to know more. And it just kind of cycles everyone up.
I love that mindset. I think, again, being new to a community and having people welcome you just immediately kind of disarms that apprehension. And maybe not having the people that write all the forums on Stack Overflow be your community team probably helps make people feel a little more welcome. So, as far as like kind of scaling while maintaining the quality of community and stuff like that, at what point, and Amy, maybe you can speak to this since you've been there since the inception of this community. At what point did you feel you needed to shift the community strategy to accommodate Vercel's growth?
Part of it was just recognizing I was reaching my limit on being able to really give people the attention that they needed. And part of it was realizing we had grown beyond just support, where we had kind of formed more of a community that ended up following us over to the new site almost right away, like Pauline said. And it was just recognizing that there was more that we wanted to do, and growing the team, growing the platform to be able to support those things.
Amy, you're such a vibe right now with the birds chirping in your background.
I was just about to say that too.
I'm sorry,
Such a vibe.
There's like warblers and they're very loud, and like wrens and things.
No, do not change it. It is perfect.
I would actually like record it so you can just keep it going. That is fantastic. I love that. That right there, such a positive. Like people are in here enjoying that little thing. Like that's wonderful. I love that on a Tuesday. What metrics or indicators does the team track to kind of measure community health beyond just like numbers? Like what are the things that you look for in the community to sort of take value in that?
This is such a good question. And is it bad to say vibes? Is that not a good answer?
I almost said that. And I was like,
Okay, is that all of us are saying it? Because it is that though, isn't it? It's like the vibes, and it's also like so subjective. I can't like say, I mean, I have to say like the Vercel community like space that we have is such good vibes. Like you can go in there and like go through a couple of the questions, and everyone is so polite and everyone is so respectful. I mean, we've had a couple of like not even a couple, I would say like two maybe bad actors in there since we launched, but everyone has been so respectful, and it's definitely a stark, I guess, comparison to other platforms that can get quite negative. And I think it's like, yeah, I think for me, one of the things I look for, I don't have this officially written down in anything internally, but one of the things I look for is like the vibes of people enjoying themselves. No one's yelling. As you know, when they have this like critical feedback for the team, is it written in a way that's like polite, that we can pass on and it's productive? And that's kind of the vibes that I kind of look for. Vibe check, I guess. Community vibe check.
Everybody loves the vibe check. Go ahead, Amy. Oh, you were me.
Oh no, just completely agreeing.
Yeah. The vibes are immaculate, as Taylor would say, and I feel disgusting saying that. But I loved that all of you just clicked like at the same, like that moment just happened for all of you. That was so awesome. That'll also be a clip. I will make sure we get that clip because I feel like that was great. How do you, as the wow, I just lost my train of thought. As the community scaling, how do you maintain the vibe? How, again, it's just moving so rapidly and things change so much. How do you maintain that like community's core culture of having that like positive and welcoming environment?
Hire the right people. Mic drop. Okay, Cap, you go.
Yes, people are everything, like internally, externally, the community has to, if people aren't having fun, then the vibes will fall, and like things will maybe fall to the wayside if the person that you hired just doesn't care. Like I said at the very beginning, if you don't care about the product, if you don't care about the community, they'll see right through it and there will not be good vibes. And also like adjusting to what people need. So if somebody, meeting the community where they are, that also makes everyone feel warm and fuzzy inside. And hey, I don't like to meet in person. So can we please do some online type meetup stuff? And that's where like Pauline and Amy with their stream with Jono was really great because that connects the world in a very easy, the barrier is very low to join that. You just got to click on a link, and have internet access and a computer. And I guess that barrier is not super low, but like, you know what I mean? Like we're not expecting you to come fly to us, but then also going to them. And that's where like our worldwide meetups are trying to like hit many cities. And so it's like, it's grabbing the community and meeting them where they are. And if you really like this, we'll continue doing it. If it doesn't work out and we're not vibing, then let's drop it. But yeah, it's meeting them where they are. And you got to be authentic. If you're not,
You ain't passing that vibe check. They smell the unvibes. They know there's the unvibe sensor at Vercel, everyone. So definitely make sure you pass. Now I have cookies on the brain, by the way. Separate from dessert. Hot take. I don't consider cookies a dessert. Unless you're eating an entire tray.
what is it to you?
I don't know. It's just like a treat. It's a snack. Like, do you consider M&Ms a dessert?
You can, I guess. Depends.
Maybe it's the meal, not the actual item. Interesting. Oh, see, I'm getting a lot of hate for that one. See, oh, cookies are a snack. See, somebody else said it too. What's one thing, and we can go back around, what's one thing you wish you had known earlier about scaling tech communities, or just reflecting on your journey, if you had seen it looking back, like what's that one thing, like I would have done this, or I would have maybe not done that? And then we'll wrap up because I realize we are hitting our hour. Holy cow, this flew.
I have made mistakes and learned along the way. There are like moments that I have that I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have not done that, or I wish that didn't happen. And that just makes us human, and like you launch something and the community doesn't like it and they come at you and you're like, okay, I'm sorry, and like, and then you like pull back on it and you're like, we should not have done that. We're humans interacting with humans, and humans make mistakes. And so that's just something I learned along the way, is like, if I mess up, or like if somebody else messes up, or a program didn't go how we wanted to, or a meetup didn't have the vibes, you can always do better the next time. And it's not like, oh, well, get rid of the community. We don't need to support anymore. They don't need us. We don't need them. It's more, what can we do better next time? And so it's always like reflecting, like doing retros after stuff is like really helpful to me, because I'm like, what went well, but what didn't go well? And I don't want to do that again. And so it's just knowing that it's okay if you mess up. It's okay if the vibe wasn't perfect or immaculate, and the next time you can do better. And that's just going to be forever. I know.
I love that. And I think that's where having a really supportive community comes into place because those mistakes and the feedback can be so constructive. You learn from the failures, especially if you're around people that'll help you grow from it. So, well said. Pauline, Amy?
Amy, go ahead.
Me? Okay. I think I just I want to say +1, of course, but also from my own, I guess, like lessons, I wish I had recognized the need to grow to a different platform sooner. Right? This is, uh, my only role where I've been completely in charge of a community versus just being a participant and um, seeing how much it grew and how much there was I guess, desire for some of the cool things that we could do with a new platform. I just wish I had jumped sooner.
Well, you're there now, and that's all that matters. And it seems like it
Yeah.
is going crazy as far as scaling. So, hindsight's 2020. Pauline, what do you have? And then I'll let you ladies leave. It's been an awesome hour, though.
Yeah, +2 to everything everyone has already said. Totally agree there. I think for me, actually, it's there's two things. The first one is actually about like the team structure and like so in like I said in my previous job, I was in charge of a community team, and one of the biggest mistakes I made there was not align the community goals to the company goals. And at Vercel, it's very easy to align our community work to like wider Vercel goals because Vercel is literally all in community. Like everyone loves community at Vercel, so it's really we don't have to convince anyone, I guess, is what I'm saying. Whereas I've been in previous companies before where the community vibes kind of like died down and they were like actually just one day they were like we don't want community anymore, we don't want to invest in this anymore. And I think the biggest like lesson there was that I should have been a better leader that like that was able to link back the community's efforts back into the company goals because they were there. It was very obvious in hindsight, but I just didn't communicate it sooner. And now that's like something that's always in the back of my mind. I'm like, okay, what is the impact that my team is doing now? And how can I be loud about this so that everyone is like highlighted, our work is highlighted, community is highlighted. So we're always at the conversation at every table everyone is having at Vercel. So that's like number one. And then I think like another thing that I wish I knew was that even though like metrics are great, as I just said, it's important to align to goals and important to align to metrics. I also wish it clocked to me earlier that even though these numbers are important, we always have to remember that the community is full of people and it will always be full of people because that's what communities are. So I think like just remembering that it doesn't matter about all of these numbers. No matter what, we need to stay true to like our community values. And if things are changing in the company, if the community is not as needed, I'm not saying this is happening at Vercel, it's very far from it, but like I've been in teams where it has. I just wish we were more transparent, and now that's kind of a value I bring in this role where I'm like, transparency above everything. I have literally nothing to hide. Let's like bring everything to the table and make sure we are all on the same page and the same team. So yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Transparency, authenticity, and an awesome product. Just, I love everything that Vercel's doing. Thank you so much, ladies, for spending a little bit of time and sharing some of your thoughts on community and what's important to you. Where can we see Vercel next? I know we said a lot of different things as far as on and in person and virtual. We have your wonderful calendar available for anybody that is signed up for your community here. Where can we see you next?
Actually, some people in the chat here are coming to my New York meetup because I see some names, but I have a New York meetup happening March 12th. RSVP. I don't know how to get you the link.
Somebody give us the link, damn it. I don't know what it. Me and Pauline were
will-
talking. I will be there as well.
Yes. Oh, I will. We'll send it on Twitter. We'll retweet it again. It'll be
Yeah.
on the top of my feed.
Awesome. Well, we will look out for that. Everybody else, in the meantime, head over to the Vercel community page. All right, who's giving us our closing thought?
Oh, sorry, Jason. Can I quickly say?
Of course.
This Thursday, we have a chat with our amazing engineering team who are behind the Fluid Compute launch. So come and join us there. Amy will be moderating that one. I'll be behind the scenes in the chat, but please join us. It's going to be so fun. We've got some great things lined up for that session.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you for adding that. And make sure you connect with everybody. There are the handles for X. They have other socials, but you can find them from there. That's all I could pull as fast as I could. Definitely check out V0 as well. That's a fantastic product. I've been playing around with it quite a bit. And Torc also hosts all of our sites on Vercel, so I do give a big shout out to the product because we use it internally. Outside of that, you can head to our page, which again is hosted over at Vercel, and see what we have coming up the rest of the week. Pauline, Amy, Cap, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you guys soon. If you want to hang out backstage for 1 sec, we'll get this ended. But hey, everybody, remember, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. We'll see you next time.